What is the emergency?
Yes, sir. I need an ambulance as soon as possible, sir.
A man dies after diving into a toxic cesspool just to retrieve his phone.
Killed by bugs, a bizarre challenge may have cost a West Palm Beach man his life.
Another drops dead moments after winning a cockroach-eating contest.
That's insanity. I mean, you're talking about a cockroach.
And if you think it can't get any more bizarre, wait until you hear about the man who was crushed inside a vehicle by a collapsing giraffe.
Wow. You can't believe it. Impossible.
These stories are so strange you'd swear they were made up, but they're real.
It's so strange. It's just very strange. I don't know what to make of it. It's like, what?
And they're just the beginning of bizarre ways people have died. Part 7. What are the odds that a giraffe symbol of serene, towering grace could become the centerpiece of a fatal freak accident? In November 2019, South Africa's Kruger National Park, a place where wildlife roams free and tourists chase the dream of seeing nature's giants, became the scene of a tragedy no one could have predicted. On a quiet road north of the Mopani area, a fully grown giraffe suddenly stepped onto the tarmac. A minibus packed with day visitors collided with the animal, an impact so powerful it killed the 18-foot-tall, 750-kilogram giraffe instantly. But the horror didn't end there. The force of the collision hurled the giraffe's massive body across the road, crashing down onto a rental safari camper, traveling in the opposite direction. Inside were a Swiss couple, on a self-drive adventure. The roof of their vehicle caved in under the weight, leaving the Swiss man critically injured and his wife with minor wounds. Emergency crews rushed to the scene, stabilizing the man before airlifting him to a Johannesburg hospital. Despite their efforts, he succumbed to his injuries days later. 2 passengers from the minibus also suffered minor injuries, but the sheer randomness of the event left everyone, tourists, rangers, and officials, stunned. In decades of safari tours, park authorities had never witnessed such a devastating twist of fate. No reckless driving, no speeding, just the unpredictable wild, reminding all that even the most majestic beauty can turn deadly in a heartbeat. The tragedy stands as a chilling reminder. In the wild, nature always has the final word. For one Swiss couple, a dream safari ended in unimaginable loss. The last thing he ever saw was Africa's tallest animal, crashing down from the sky. Kruger National Park officials continue to urge visitors. Animals have the right of way, and in their world, the unexpected is always just around the corner.
Killed by bugs, a bizarre challenge may have cost a West Palm Beach man his life.
Before he died, the man downed dozens of bugs, cockroaches, and worms.
How far would you go for a prize? For Edward Archbold, the answer was deadly. On a humid October night in 2012, the Ben Siegel reptile store in Deerfield Beach, Florida, was buzzing with excitement. The store was hosting a roach-eating contest. The prize, a rare ivory ball python worth $1,000. The challenge? Devour as many live cockroaches, superworms, and hornworms as you could stomach, while a crowd cheered you on. Edward Archbold, 32, was the life of the party. Loud, energetic, and determined, he dove into the contest with reckless abandon, swallowing dozens of wriggling insects in pursuit of victory. He wasn't in it for the snake. He planned to give it to a friend. For Archbold, it was about the thrill, the spectacle, the glory. But moments after being declared the winner, the celebration turned to tragedy. Archbold began to feel sick. He started vomiting, staggered out of the store, and collapsed a few doors down. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital, but it was too late. He was pronounced dead on arrival. The autopsy revealed the grim truth. Archbold's airway was blocked by a mass of roach parts and vomit. He died from asphyxia, choking on the very bugs that had won him the contest. There were no drugs, no underlying medical conditions, and no signs of poisoning. Just an accidental, fatal blockage.
Eddie was a very nice guy. We just met him that night, but everyone that works here was very fond of him. He was outgoing, he was the life of the party, and he really made our night more fun.
All contestants had signed waivers, and none of the other 30 participants became ill. Experts later said that eating roaches isn't inherently deadly, unless you choke or have a severe allergy. But for Edward Archbold, the risk became a nightmare. The contest was never held again. What began as a bizarre stunt for a pet snake ended as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that sometimes the most outrageous dares can have the most tragic consequences. Have you ever imagined that a cell phone, something so ordinary, could spark a tragedy so bizarre it defies belief? In 2014, in Xinjiang, Henan Province, China, a young woman dropped her brand new phone worth 2,000 yuan into a communal open-pit toilet. In rural China, these cesspits are little more than shallow concrete tanks, knee-deep in human waste, sealed except for a squat-style opening. Desperate to recover her precious phone, her husband jumped in. Within moments, he was overcome by the toxic fumes and collapsed. His mother, frantic, leapt in after him, and she too was felled by the invisible poison in the air. In a panic, the woman herself entered the pit, only to faint beside her loved ones. The father-in-law, calling for help, climbed in and got stuck. Two neighbors, hearing the commotion, tried to help and were also overcome. 6 people, tangled in filth and unconscious, lay in that pit. When rescuers finally pulled them out, they all still had a pulse, but the ambulance took over an hour to arrive. The husband and his mother didn't make it. The woman and a neighbor barely survived, clinging to life in intensive care. The cause, suffocation, brought on by a deadly cocktail of gases and the simple, tragic lack of oxygen. All for a phone. This wasn't an isolated incident. Across China, similar tragedies have played out. Ordinary objects dropped, desperate rescues attempted, lives lost in seconds. The real danger wasn't just the pit, but the instinct to save a loved one, no matter the risk. Sometimes the most bizarre deaths don't come from freak accidents or wild disasters. They start with something so everyday, so heartbreakingly human, you'd never expect them to end in catastrophe. All for a phone, and a moment's decision that changed everything. What would you do if the person next to you suddenly turned violent, then dropped dead mid-flight? October 18, 2015, Aer Lingus flight EI-485, Lisbon to Dublin. At 30,000 feet, the cabin erupts into chaos. A young Brazilian student, John Kennedy Santos Gurjão, just 24 years old, begins convulsing violently. Passengers stare in horror as he lashes out, biting a fellow traveler. Then, in a fit of spasms, he collapses in the aisle. Panic spreads. Flight attendants scramble, locking down the cabin. The captain calls for any doctors on board. 2 nurses and a doctor rush to help, performing CPR as the man foams at the mouth, his body racked with seizures. The plane diverts to Cork. Medics and police storm the aircraft, but it's too late. Gurjão is dead. The cause? Stranger than anyone could have imagined. A post-mortem reveals Gurjão had swallowed 113 pellets of cocaine, nearly 2 pounds worth over $60,000. One of the bags ruptured mid-flight, flooding his system with a lethal dose. The overdose triggered wild hallucinations, violent outbursts, and ultimately, death. Passengers describe the scene as surreal, a man restrained by crew, thrashing and howling in agony, a fellow passenger left with bite marks and trauma that will last a lifetime. Gurjão, a student living in Ireland, had become a human time bomb, his desperate gamble ending in terror at 30,000 feet. The aftermath? A full-scale investigation, police interviews with every passenger, and a flight no one will ever forget. All because of a smuggling scheme that exploded in the most horrifying way imaginable. From cockroach feasts to cesspool catastrophes, These bizarre deaths prove that truth is often stranger and darker than fiction. Life is fragile, and sometimes the choices we make can lead us down fatal paths no one could predict. Which of these left you speechless? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button if you're ready for more spine-tingling, jaw-dropping tales from the edge of reality. There's always a new bizarre death waiting to be uncovered, maybe even stranger than the last. Thank you for watching.